Hi there. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Friday live stream. Well, there's no one going to be here. This is another example of me being have to. Well, I said my Friday live streams, which no one ever comes anymore. I apologize for last week. I knew I was going to be at an event with a friend of my wife's, so I planned on doing a pre-recording. We were at my mother-in-law's house, so I did the pre-recording, and I uploaded it, and I thought I programmed the release at the 5 o'clock on or 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But for some reason, it didn't happen. So what happened was a snafu, a complete snafu. The situation normal, all fucked up, right? Some snafu. About what happened with regards to this was I don't really know what happened, but it didn't upload. So next day I look at it and I go, oh, it's still private. Oh no! So I released it on a Saturday, so it's not a Friday live stream, it would be a Saturday. But there. I'm back in Warsaw for a couple days, a couple weeks, so I have to do. I'm gonna write. I finally got my piece done. I bait and switched it. I sent an article about changes rather than doing my. I'll be honest. It was my this piece. She's wife is checking out on me. She's let's see. No, I can't do it. You can't come in. Oh, she wants to come check. Hold on. I'll put you on mute. Hold on. Well, that was the boss lady checking in. You got a case of the wife coming in to check. Yeah, I forgot my phone, and apparently there was messages in post telling me there's something coming, and you can't win, right? Bureaucracy. So the phone. I left my phone upstairs, and she broke down. And she said, "I'm talking to a colleague. I'm talking to you guys who are not here." So we're back about my article. My article, that was due. I didn't like it. It was still kind of yucky. I committed something, so I had something I worked on about the Constitution, American Constitution, or changes to the Constitution that I've had for like 2-3 years. That was always. And I said, "Hey, do you interested in this?" And they said, "Well, add a couple paragraphs. Add a couple paragraphs," and I did it. And I gave it to them, and they're now going to publish the book. Publish on changes to the Constitution, small changes. It's not the thing I talked about or gave the presentation on, but I needed. The problem with that was the write up of the presentation. It didn't work. It makes sense, but there's something wrong about it. And I would need 2-3 months, honestly, to kind of work on it in terms of the notes and to the things. And they had a deadline, so there. Another thing, I have this whole month of August to get off my ass and to finish my Aristotle's anthropology thing, and I have some material that I'm going to work on that. It's going to be. I think we're going to spend this week and next week doing that. We came back by Tuesday evening, so Wednesday And Thursday, I was doing some stuff and I was getting ready, but my brain, I was just sleeping, honestly, just exhausted from the semester. I caught up on some administrative stuff. I did a whole bunch of administrative crap. And some people saying, "Oh, why don't you do something? Why don't you do something?" Well, there. And I have to go on Sunday to my friend's place and outside of the city of Warsaw. We'll have steak, so I'm gonna have a steak barbecue. That's gonna be fun. So, but I have to. So probably this week, coming week, I will really just sit down here and force myself to do my Aristotle's political anthropology. I've refocused, and instead of this being about the political anthropology in general, I'm going to talk about the political Aristotle's anthropological underpinnings of his politeia, his conception of politeia, and I think that is kind of what I think would be useful in that sense, because I have some points about the way of life, things that I've talked about before, things that I know like the back of my hand, and I can tie that into the question of this, and I think that's doable. Um, so I got my chores ahead, and I might work on book 6 of the politics as well. The recordings are done. I'm re-releasing the first 5 videos of the new course of the political Aristotle's Introduction to Politics. I'm re-releasing it after this is the last, wrapping up. The next week I will wrap up Machiavelli. It's done. I did the on the for the August Thursday, August the 1st. There is a special wrap up video of that, and then starting in August, I will have the 14 sessions of my introduction to politics course released in that sense. So some of them have been released early, so I kind of dumped them on and made them public early, but now I'm going to schedule them for release on the schedule for the August, so I can take kind of an August break and think what I want to do. I want to ask you guys some thoughts about what I should do in terms of the next book. I thought about doing the Eudemonian ethics a little bit. Part of me just might do some other videos. I might go do some other videos. I don't know. I've been having a hard time doing books, doing bigger books. I know people said, why don't I do the, what was it? Someone really asked me to do, I had 2 or 3 people ask me saying, why don't I do Iliad Odyssey? I really just didn't have the chance. To be honest with people, it's difficult to do Iliad and Odyssey because of the structure. The Iliad and the Odyssey, these classical texts are just too long to read. And the way I did this course, I might just do books without reading anymore. That may be useful. I might talk about, just reflecting on some things without doing the kind of textual analysis. I'll break from that. I might break from that in that sense. But, that's because the reason why I do that is because it's very difficult. I don't want to do 2-hour, 3-hour long videos. I know people don't like that. People like shorter videos. Okay, we got 4 people on. Yay, hi there. Thank you for coming and joining. 4 videos. The length of videos should be about 30. Between above 30 minutes. Above 30 minutes, or no, 20 to 30 minutes, but no longer than hour. People. Hour. Some of my Montesquieu videos that went 4 hours long. That one video that almost went 4 hours long. Here's everyone out there. Good morning for those in America. Those of us in Europe, it's afternoon. I'm going to have my little rye. This is the last bit of a rye whiskey that a good friend who's now dead, my friend James from Baltimore, who went back to Baltimore and then, died during slightly after COVID, a couple 2 years ago. He's a very good friend, and it's passing. And he brought me a bottle. When he came to visit me in America when I was hospitalized. When I went a couple years ago back to America, and I got hospitalized, and that he came to visit after my hospitalization stay, and before I came back to Poland, that I was gonna have a nice summer vacation in America. Ended up getting sick because of it. So, um, and he brought me a thing of Sagamore Spirit rye, and I have a little. This is like a little teeny bit of this, and just thinking about him at this time, and thinking of all my friends who are gone. So it's been another friend died recently too. So it's like elderly abuse. Okay. Wow. Okay, that's my tribute to AA. I thought I loved AA's little video. He finally made a video of himself on his trip, a family trip, talking about I think the coup d'état and Harris is, becoming the candidate for president, which is hilarious. People say, why don't I talk about that? Maybe I should talk about that more. But no, I don't. Harris. This is the level of gaslighting that's going to go on in the American media. This is, I joke, but the American media today reminds me of the Soviet media of the 1970s and early 80s during the Pravda and Avestia. The so-called First Amendment people who cherish the First Amendment to the world have become nothing more than kind of tools of the Democratic left, and cheerleading tools of the Democratic left in ways that betray I don't want to hear another leftist liberal ever complain about the First Amendment ever again, because they're hypocrites on this issue. They're and because what the gaslighting of that any honest journalism about God, either Obama, if any honest journalism covered the Obamas in the way they deserved, if the mainstream media, CBS, NBC, really went after, looked carefully and closely at the Obamas, the fact that she got disbarred, that she had to turn in her bar license because of her criminal activities, the criminal activities, the real activities he did as a community activist, the way he was kind of a shill candidate. If you look closely at his community activism and very closely at his community activism, a lawyer for the community activist things, you will see, if people look closely at his Harvard record, how did he get into Harvard? The fact, the fact he lied on the transcript. The whole he's not a U.S. citizen thing was due to the fact that he fraudulently told the Harvard admissions people that he was from Kenya. This is, anyone who knows the story of the so-called, birth certificate gate about Obama knows that it was started by that he was a foreign-born person, therefore not exempt. Was Hillary Clinton in Philadelphia? It was raised in Philadelphia in New York for Super Tuesday, trying to scare off enough. And everyone said, "Oh, Trump was involved." Well, Trump then back then it was very much a supporter of Democrats. This is this idea that Trump was always a right wing. He was a left winger. He was seen as an ally and supporter of Democrats. He contributed to campaigns of the Clintons, and also contributed to Kamala Harris's first Senate race. I mean, he was a classic Democratic supporter. That he's a class betrayer. The reason why they hate him is because he's seen as a class betrayer, a betrayer of all these things. This is how they always react to one of theirs who betrayed them, right? So the media now has gone to this hyper mode of trying to, gaslight America. Oh no, Camilla wasn't in charge of the board. Oh no, she wasn't borders. She's fresh and new. She's a wonderful person, happy, youthful, energetic. Not to mention that she's a complete moron. If you look at her past record, my God, look at her relationship with Willie Brown, and in that and how she came to power. If anyone honest, any reporter was honest about it, they won't do it because they can't do it. They can't. We don't have journalism anymore. It's all partisan in this sense. Traditional journalism, investigative journalism. Oh no, this would be racist, sexist. Come on her knees and ready to please. The punta, the the awarded power at her job at the AG office was a quid pro quo for being something he could tap on a regular basis. So come on, let's you can't talk about this. My attitude about this, I agree. Maybe Trump and Republicans shouldn't talk about it. Instead, what they should do is someone needs to do a kind of version of the Swift Boats for Truth campaign during the 2004 election campaign. Go to the Swift voters who knew John Kerry, who hated John Kerry, and do a thing like that. A campaign. So therefore, go to all these African American men whose lives were destroyed by Kamala Harris and her stand as AG, throwing men in jails, and showing how hypocritical she is. And now she's playing the woman who came in power by throwing black men into the prison system to raise up in power, and now plays her black card, in order to, she came on the Clinton kind of trajectory, and then when that no longer became possible under Obama, she switched right. All of a sudden, it became useful for her to play black and enjoy the black leftism, and she has no print. The idea that she's a radical left, no, she has no. She's a whore. She's a $2 whore who has no principles. It's whoever helps her get elected that you believe in. She change your position based on that. And like any kind of person like that personality, she's a monster. And look at her staff. Interview her staff. My God, I wish O'Keefe and gang should be interviewing her staff and reform her staff. But O'Keefe's now busy doing Act Blue, and I think that is important because the Act Blue stuff. What O'Keefe? Okay, I understand. I have a good friend who kind of disagrees with understands the reality of what happened to O'Keefe. O'Keefe and his behavior, why he was removed from there was removed legitimately, but that's a different story. The problem with people like O'Keefe is that they are, problematic in the true sense, but at the same time, problematic people do good things on our side, in the sense that they uncover certain realities. Now, and this causes a problem. People who wish to, should we, this is why people say, I know people who think he should be outed, and I agree with them. They should be out. He should be outed. But at the same time, I cannot deny that his new effort at Act Blue is in a way trying to rebrand himself and to reestablish his reputation, is very good. Now this should also be done to the other people need to get involved other than O'Keefe. I think more and more people should take the O'Keefe model, engage in this. In fact, I wish there should be, and I would do even more so. I would create NGOs and third-party groups like I would do against Harris, would be Brothers for Truth and Harris. Make an African American activist, get a couple, get a couple of black conservatives or black activists to form a thing and make outreach to some of these guys, interview them, talk about how she ruined the stories, and then interview the people who knows the background of her time working with Willie Brown and gang, and talk about that and how she is, and talk about her staff, and show release the monster, give to the American people the image. Now, it can't be done by white people and Republicans or males, because if it is, it's going to get discredited. So you need black men doing it and black women, minorities doing it, because if the minorities release it, now they will be attacked as Uncle Toms and things like this. But it has to be this way, otherwise, white dumb liberal women will say, "Oh my God, how dare you do that?" telling about being honest about Harris. Now, some people say we shouldn't do that. We should take the high ground. The problem is the gaslighting. The most voters are going to be completely lied to about the way the gaslighting will be effective because most people are goldfish. Most people have the attention span of goldfish. They don't remember. This is why it's true. The political, if you're going to have a crisis, if you better have your crises far away from an electoral. This is why October surprises are so important. This is why many of the things happening now gives Democrats enough time to kind of hope people forget about things. Particularly as August and September hits, and the ways you can become popular because of natural disasters, as Obama did in 2012. Yeah, 2012 during Hurricane Sandy. Right, Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast of the Republic, Northeast, and he could. And then what happened was he helped. That led to Bill Christie having to give Obama that photo op because as governor he needed to he needed the help and assistance of the federal government, and Obama was using it for political purposes. And you don't have in other words, you didn't have a media. Imagine how the media treated when Katrina hit New Orleans, right? Look how any attempt by Bush to kind of try anything to force Democratic governors to do things was automatically, everything would be blamed on him. So the media was never going to look at a kind of heavy-handed manipulation by Obama to get a political opportunism. The media would not present it as that. It would be presented as, the president doing his job. Again, this is the problem with the media. The media for the past 30 years has been nothing more than a proxy of the Democratic Party, a proxy defending the Democratic Party. You always say Fox. Well, Fox is no better. Fox, yes, the Fox always does do this. You say it's on the right, but Fox sells. I have to understand that Fox's ownership and the people who own Fox have as much same interest in promoting cheap immigration and neoliberal policies as many of the people backing the mainstream media. So therefore, there's this kind of the uniparty conception here. You can see this is why everyone knows this problem of the mainstream media, and I'm not going to waste my time talking about this. Everyone knows this kind of stuff. So Camilla is there, the coup d'etat. You have the coup d'etat, which is interesting. First, and we're going to have the gaslighting. How Trump is the threat to democracy by people who have nothing but contempt for democracy, right? So that's that. I wasted already about 10, 20 minutes on talking about democracy and things like the election. Well, that's the interesting thing. Now, I'll be honest with you. I got a friend of I finally got my copy of The Unprotected Class by, was it, how to say it? Jeremy? I don't know. Jeremy Call. Mr. Call's Unprotected Class, published by Reganry. I was blocked. I couldn't order it in Europe. I had to order it from Amazon US and pay the shipping costs. Same thing with a new book by, what's his name? Ed Dutton. Ed Dutton's book, Woke Eugenics. I couldn't buy it in Europe at all. Okay, that's my wife, Heidi, looking on the bookshelves over there behind us. So Ed Dutton's Woke Eugenics was simply unattainable in Germany and Europe. So I had to order it through Amazon US. Okay, I'm trying to hide my wife because she doesn't.
I didn't sell it.
She is trying to, try to get on screen. Uh, so so Dutton's book is probably arriving, but I had to order it from the U.S. So therefore, Jeremy Kow's book was kind of so. This is some of the EU censorship of Amazon, or Amazon in Europe is much more sensitive to some issues than elsewhere. But Jeremy, and also the difference here is that Corlett talk about Kaufman's book. It's called The Third Awakening in the American edition now, and I think the book is called something else in the British. Oh, there's the fly. Yeah, the UK version of the title is called Taboo. Taboo. So if you buy Amazon UK, look for Taboo. Same book. I'm not going to, maybe I should buy the UK edition also, see how they differ. I talked about this in another live stream, previous live streams, and I'm not going to talk about it again. But Jeremy Call's book about what anti-white discrimination is, and thoroughly it is like a very exhaustive case of it in a certain way, a very exhaustive case. Mr. Greenglass says Cliff still won't follow me on X. That's not true. I follow you on X, don't I? I thought I did. I clicked follow. You post things on me. I don't. I hit follow. Okay, bugs go away. Bugs go away. It's gonna. They sense the alcohol, sugar, and therefore coming. I know you're that. Peter J. I know that. I see your things, and I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. Maybe it didn't work. Who knows what's going on with stupid? I thought I uploaded a stream last week, so maybe I'll have to go check it in that sense. What about the other book? Call me. Jeremy Cow's book is actually very shocking in that this is, it shows how how in many ways the suicidal tendency of this. Now, I would pair anyone who wants to understand this. I think you need to pair this to the woke, something by Ed Dutton on woke eugenics, how the kind of idea of spiteful mutants and the mental illness and the genetic qualities of of dysgenics that has happened over the past 30 years of the way we've allowed in things like new techniques and allowing basically allowing people who would probably die to survive in that sense. And the work by Dutton on dysgenics and his idea of the spiteful mutant is, I think, useful to understand this. So we want to talk about the woke mind virus. There's two ways. There's two evolutionary approaches. One is kind of the metaphoric. God Saad in his famous what is the I forget the name of his book. I reviewed God Saad's book too, and I was disappointed of it because it's his idea of the mind virus is a metaphor. It is not really a biological. He's not giving us a Darwinian mechanism of this, and I think this is why when J.F. Garpe reviewed the book when the I don't know where it's my copy of the first God's. I got his happiness book. What is the parasitic mind? Yes, the parasitic mind. I think in many ways, and I think, and actually, this led to a debate between him, and in many ways, it was I agreed with much of the criticism of JF about the lack that there was something problematic evolution. What he was doing was arguing by analogy, not by really a devolution. In other words, he was giving an analogy of mind virus and parasitical things. He was using these medical things, and instead of not arguing that this was that kind of process, but rather this was metaphorically similar to this, and not and analogous to it, and the way it happened in the human, the intellect and mind was similar to this. Right. This is and for Saad, Gad Saad, this was in his mind. Okay, we can do this. We in different disciplines we have to approach this. This is the kind of thing that in social disciplines we have a more fuzzy model, and the connection between this and social behavior and biological things are not perfectly identical, and therefore there is going to be wiggle room, and therefore, as long as it's analogous, in other words, it's similar to, it follows the pattern of that, but not identical. Okay, and this was also the point that this is where someone like Jordan Peterson also, in that little live stream that Peterson did with God Sod about the book, where Peterson kind of had a similar evolutionary problem. And this is ironic because you'd think Peterson, Peters, you look at someone like Godsod, he's less, Peterson embraces Jungian transcendental mentalities and conceptions of things and aspects of religious consciousness and things like that, and directions, and deals with issues of consciousness and memory and ideas and symbolism and symbolic realities in a way that Godsod doesn't. Godsod is more, his approach and his evolutionary stuff on business seems to be much more, goes in a completely different direction and more biological, more strictly evolutionary. So therefore, it was very ironic that Peterson's critique of of Saad use of the analogy of the parasite and of this, and how it was symbolic more than, or analogous and symbolic rather than literal, was in a way odd. It was like it would, and therefore there was another ironic intersect between some a hardcore Darwinian person like JF, Gary P, and Peterson. Even these are like this in many ways. Godsod is an interesting case. Now, why did I mention Godsod? Well, Godsod's, I would argue Godsod is a gateway to understanding this problem of the mind virus as a concept of a philosophic dimension, where you would look like to someone like, well, the idea of Eric Voegelin's idea of ideology, and the way ideology shapes and reconceptualizes reality, and therefore ideology creates an alternative reality that therefore distorts the human's ability to perceive. Okay, this is the fly that's want to come and bother me. Distorts reality in a fundamental way, and therefore that is the mind virus. It's in other words, it's a conceptual. Now, you can do this also psychologically through True Believer, Eric Hoffman, Eric Hoffman, is it Hoffer, Eric Hoffer, his 1950s classics True Believer, about this, and Hoffer is very much a student of, I want to get, not Dewey's best student. Dewey's Dewey's I'm gonna get my. It's gonna drive me crazy. I know who it is. It's gonna be absolutely driving me crazy. I don't want to go into the whole epistemology, but damn it, not Quine. Ayers? Not Ayers. No, not AJ Ayers. It's going to drive me crazy. Dewey played a very important role in this sense, but oh, it's gonna drive me crazy. I know his name too. He was the guy who was very, he was a social democrat, the social democrat who 1950s. It's I don't want to say not Ayers. Oh, not Dewey. Oh, it's gonna drive me crazy. Um, S. It's gonna absolutely drive me crazy. Um, Not more, not Godfrey. Zero. Crap. It's gonna absolutely. He was a disciple of Dewey. He was Dewey's disciple. It's gonna completely. It's going to absolutely drive me crazy now. I'm sorry about this, guys. It's gonna. It's not Ayers. Ayers is an English scholar. Um, he, it's gonna be. Pragmatic philosopher. It's going to absolutely drive me crazy now. I know who I'm talking about. He was a disciple of Dewey, lived the Democrat. He was basically that old man in the 1990s, 80s, American philosopher. It's going to absolutely drive me crazy now because I know it's not. Um, who basically he was a democratic socialist, but he hated communism. He despised communism. Um, so it's good. Forget it. Let's stop. It's good. But why did I mention that? Because I think we have to understand that um, that's the whole point of this is what I got derailed. Oops, Daisy. Oops. So let's go back to the point that I was trying to get at, and that was the whole thing about Hoffer, Eric Hoffer, and communism and ideology, and how ideology shapes belief. Again, that William James. This is the whole question. This all goes back to James and the pragmatists in that sense. James' will to belief and belief. And therefore, this is the fundamental conception of early American pragmatism, which saw itself as much a psychology than this. This is why someone like both, this is why both um, in Godsod and Peterson do embrace a more the pragmatists' perception of these issues, contra to someone like Vogelin, who would insist on a pure rational and not this accidental, what works kind of thing, but the truth of the matter. So this is the question. So therefore, there is a kind of conceptual, analytical conception about the question of ideology and how it operates. That's one thing. Then there's the evolutionary thing, that the question of how does this body operate at this level. And this is where Vogelin doesn't like. Vogelin is not happy with evolutionary models. He's highly suspicious of this. In many ways, that's because he's a Kantian who wants to divide the noumenal, the ideal levels of ideas and the way the mind operates. He accepts kind of this duality, the Kantian duality of the human mind versus the biological natural realm. That I think is wrong in that sense. And Hegel, thus the pragmat. Maybe I am a little bit more, except I'm scientists have to accept, practical scientists have to accept some of the pragmatists' perception that you can, because of the complexity of existence, you cannot demand the level of truth that you would demand at phenomena that have simpler, less variation and less divergence from distribution patterns than what happens in existence. And so therefore you don't have a kind of yes no answer. You have a range of answers, a range of eventually coming to being and passing away, right? You have a distribution of truth or validity. And I think this is the point. This is that distinction in this way. So I think that's, okay, Vogelin's trying to get this more truthful aspect, but I think does help. It gives us a rational, analytic, axiological construction of what is at play. That then, therefore, this model a more pragmatic model can then see if it works or not, and to the degree it works, the degree that it's useful to explain and understand it. And I think this is why Eric Hoffer's book on this, True Believer, still remains one of the most important books. Now, why do we say that? Because this is the woke mind virus. Now, here, books like Mark Mitchell's American Awakening, or David Mahoney's Idols of the Age, are useful to, and also Pierre Monet's book on the Religion of Humanity, offers us the kind of way, echoing what David Starkey says. I think David Starkey rightly said, is that there is that the woke ideology is nothing more than using Vogelin's kind, a Gnosticized Christian, a heretical Christian, taking a heresy of Christianity, a radical heresy of Christianity, a radically heretical conception of Christianity that becomes secularized and ideologized. And I think this is a very important way to understand the question, to respond to the woke thing. Now, Kaufman and gang are giving a more direct aspects of woke, whereas what Jeremy Call is doing is giving us the kind of evidential argument about that anyone who says that this is not a kind of reverse racism or is not an anti-white thing. This is a very definitive. This book offers a kind of closed case evidence of all the evidence and all the examples of how this is simply the case. And I think therefore that's why it's an important thing here. Now, as we wrap up today's show, I want to get to some of the comments, viewer comments. I needed to go back to Correlates' James's post that he gave earlier today about that talked about, he posted about the last Friday live stream, where he says the discussion of elite competence was very interesting, and that would make a good topic to pursue. In Britain, it feels like there has been a noticeable decline in capacity of elite since Blair, and I wondered what factors lay behind this. Another related topic, the British nationalist commentator Morgoth made a video last week about ethnic groups and institutions. It's called Against Hitchens, or Morgoth's on Morgoth's review channel. In that video, he is arguing against the importance of political institutions, that an ethnic group or community can survive without them. The way things are currently, I'm more skeptical about this. And at the same time, it depends on what kind of institutions you have. There were also some allusions in the video to German National Socialism, which I think touches on the topic of continental influences on Anglo politics, something discussed the other week. Now, I haven't seen Morgoth, and I don't like Morgoth, to be honest with you. Morgoth, to me, is... to me, this is what I call... I don't know what I say. He doesn't respect the complexity of evolution in this sense. I'm sorry, you need institutions. Human beings, in other words, humans create institutions. It is the division of fucking labor. Come on. Monkey see, monkey do can only operate without a certain level. You need tools. And institutions are the fucking tools of human being interconnection and building communities, and even, I'm sorry, building not only communities, but also nations. Okay? Without fucking institution of state, there can be no nation. It don't work without the institution. In other words, human beings need these artifacts of institutions. They create them. These are the tools. These are the structure by which human community operates under. And therefore, the creation of the society, in other words, that man creates state and society, the society and state, that this is the structure. This is the structure upon why the nation itself can exist. So, in other words, you can have a biological network of these tribes, but at the biological level, what ends up happening is differentiation, not unification. I'm sorry, millions, hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution shows that you don't have the emergence of the nation only to the emergence of the state and society. In other words, that you have populations who share, and therefore that you have continually the forces of time and space and the interconnectivity of people's interactions and replications, both at the genetic and also at the social level, don't give you until you get mechanisms of speed that shrink time space, and that's what technology does, right? Cars, the rails, the cars, radio, and things like this. All of this fundamentally alters space time to a degree that allows forces human interconnection and so therefore what ends up happening from the birth, the Margoffs of this world think to argue that, oh my god, just tribal biological reality operate. No, it is an interconnect between the biological social mechanisms and the structures human beings have made, and to the environment, which alters what happens in the interplay. Remember that it's the interplay of evolution is the interplay between the organism and the environment. And if the entity, it creates structures and things, alterations to the environment, and that includes not only the physical environment like this, but also the structural environments. You create households, you create families, you go from hunter gatherer, the move from hunter gatherer. In other words, the evolutionary shift that happened when the emergence away from hunter gathering and to pastoral, hunter gatherer and also pastoral. Now the big gap, hunter gatherers to pastoral. Pastoral means okay, big step. But the next big step is agricultural, and the next bigger step after that is commercial. Okay, you have these quantitative differentiations that fundamentally alter the environment by which the human evolutionary actor operates in, and because of this, you create different patterns of social interaction. So therefore, what was possible, in other words. The network of associations at a commercial level is going to differ from that of the agrarian level. Okay, but that's going to differ at the each one of these levels. The division of labor and the division of labor necessary, and the social institutions necessary to maintain and support those things will evolve. And this is the big shift. And I think Durkheim is right here. People like Durkheim and gang has caught this in ways. And even Adam Smith kind of points to it. It is Durkheim who nails it in his Division of Labor book. And I think that is not Mr. Greenglass, or Peter says here, I literally had a conversation with a friend who said Elon Musk is unintelligent. Well, it's not the question of unintelligent. He is kind of a genius in a certain level. He's a technical genius, and I'm not going to say he's unintelligent. Now, does his intelligence cross all spectrums of things? No, but I would argue that his intelligence is, he's not unintelligent. He has, I think he's emotionally unintelligent. I think he has some problems about interconnection, and you can see this with his problems of intimacy that he has. Never his failure to really formulate a healthy marriage, healthy relationship with a person to do this, and had so many sexual partners and had so many children. That's led to the tragedy that he recently talked with Peterson about losing a son, having a son, and genetically off something who was his genetic offspring, who was his son, who was then who was something. Oh, let's be honest, not having a father every day present in his life made a situation, and Eddie being in an awkward family environment and being surrounded by wealth and things like this creates social pathologies that then led to this dissection of, and in an environment the anti-male environment that has dominated the world would probably lead to certain psychoses of young men, to particularly not necessarily given the genetic characters of maybe he's smart, maybe he's archaic. So therefore, the question is he going to be sociable? No. He's going to be awkward. Like he's going to have his father's social awkwardness, probably. What about this? Is maybe he's not as smart as his father. Maybe in that sense, he maybe has the awkward. Maybe he got the negative aspects of his father, but not any of the positive aspects of his father. And therefore, what ended up happening is that confronted with these realities, he was susceptible to these ideological madness and and getting in the hands of psychologists and dogmatic educators who encourage this idiocy, particularly with the father who was not going to be present, and himself wishing to be what not really interested in these questions, and because he's not at the same time he doesn't want to peer backwards or think, in other words, remember how in many ways um, Musk was always politically immature. In other words, he was not interested in politics. He was not. He was interested in these techniques and these things, and that only became interested in politics when that politics started interfering in him doing what he did. He's not he's apolitical in that sense, and his political and agnostic in this sense, and his wanting to be liked, and therefore adopting left wing positions in that sense. Well, I think he is intelligent in that sense. Likes young girls, and that's kind of no, yeah, but that's pathological. Also, loving young girls. Yeah, that's immaturity. That's the Peter Pan problem, that you're not able to realize that at a certain stage you're going to have the consequence of being a father and taking responsibility. He may be brilliant, but he's emotionally immature. Maybe he was for like a long time emotionally immature, wishing to be a child still, wishing to live a fantasy. And this is also his apoliticization. In other words, that I look at someone like Musk, who's brilliant. Brilliant people tend to be, there's kind of scientific brilliant people who are so brilliant also tend to be live in a world that's different than reality, and remain immature, particularly if they have aspects of or traits of social, and traits that do not help them to, you know, have normal relationships and have normal structures. Um, I look at Musk as Endeavor as a great person, but do I look at him, according to Western standards, perhaps, but only current ones, women aren't very serious anyway. Men prefer, yeah. Why do men prefer younger women? For breeding purposes, right? Yes, but that requires also breeding purposes. That is why we have to understand the reason why the homogenous marriage structure emerged, and the evolutionary benefits that this happened, and why politically as well. This is why, even though I have issues with Matt Ridley, but Matt Ridley's The Red Queen is one of the most important books to read about this, because we have to understand the emergence of the monogamous marriage gave possibilities of gave rise to political rule, democratic structures, egalitarianism. In other words, the rise of monogamy and the monogamous structure was produced benefits for everyone in that sense. The children get better. It's more likely to male and parental involvement, greater male parental involvement, community basis households emerge, stability. You are able to, in other words, if you look carefully at the rise of the move, monogamy, agricultural society, and monogamy arise at the same thing. Didn't the age of consent change only recently? No, I mean, the age of consent became, as we became industrial. Yes, age of consent went up because of industrialization, because we wanted people to go to school and not have children. Didn't want daughters and things. Remember, women labor force in commercial society was essential. So during also a time during which men were more serious. No, I mean, that's just romanticism. Um, I think this idea that men were more serious, men. The idea that men, warrior men, da 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 da. No, agricultural society emerges that moment, that shift that happens. Your argument here sounds very much like Thurston Veblen's argument in his where he argues that warrior culture versus feminine, where he adopts the feminist position against the masculinist culture. But it's basically you're just taking the kind of reasoning that he makes: male warrior, female gatherer, oh da 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 da. and just you're going in a different direction than Veblen, but same logic. I think that's problematic. I think that the evolutionary behavior changes, and you go into the new system. Once you go into I think the environment, the evolutionary pattern changes. Hunter gatherers, paternal, every stage of human development of this thing, there becomes a change in the adaptation of sexual selection. Okay, sexual selection adapts to this new structure, and therefore it has nothing. The empower, in other words, commercial society needs cheap labor, and therefore this creates the extreme aspects of commercial society taken to a radical situation. Wants cheap, flexible labor to the maximum level of this, and women in the workforce are the most flexible, and also it expands the supply and labor costs. They don't care about abortion. They've been made to the ideology, abortion and things like that. Women have been brainwashed to forget they're women. Feminism basically brainwashed. You have to go look at socialist Marxist ideology and the way about the radicalization of the worker. It is the idea that the laborer had to be in the work for. In other words, the Marxists adopted the radical idea of the worker being everyone and not this, and therefore the family was a reaction. The family prevented women from entering the labor force and participating in labor, and therefore thus blocking the revolutionary potential of the moment of the workers being united. Okay, therefore they had a very anti-family idea, and also the feminism is very much connected to the early feminists. Look at the early feminists and the rise of what is the John Stuart Mill's woman, Harriet, I forget her last name, Harriet Harriet something. But she really influenced Mill's perception later on socialism and feminism in that sense, in his later life in that sense. And if you look carefully at something like that, you see the way ideology warps the female mind. In other words, the female has been ideology has consciously reshaped feminine consciousness to want things that actually do not advantage them as a woman in that sense. Therefore, they care about abortion, all these peripheral interests, because they have been ideologized, and they have completely lost their conception of what is their true nature. They have been brainwashed. That's the nature of ideology. Ideology and belief structures our consciousness at a certain level to make us believe a new reality, a new versions of what things are, and that this leads us to think that this false consciousness, this false structure of thinking, is real. Okay, that this is the way things ought to be, and therefore they engage and behave. They adopt as good and the thing that they should pursue things that are not really real advantageous as human beings, as women, in terms of the evolution, their evolutionary purpose in the process of life, in the sense that they're fundamental. In other words, we adopt a Kantian division between the biological reality versus the willing agency. That the idea that everyone is a will, and that will is not is completely separate from and independent of the biological aspect, and therefore we are all either equal or free or spirit, or we can create this stuff. All this is the emancipation of the will, and this is why we need to look at this in these terms. And that's why I would say that this is why your point here is problematic in that sense. Not problematic because of that. Is we're there is something fundamentally tragic about women embracing this. They've lost their humanity. They're losing their humanity. Like the children who are brainwashed into transgenderism and embrace this stuff. There is something inhumane about this. This is all tied to the Gnostic character of the Marxist revolutionary mindset in that sense. And this is what it's up to in that sense. This is why it's problematic and using their language in that sense. And the only way we recover this is, by destroying this. Just saying, hey, I'm going to look at someone like Tusk Musk and say, yes, he's brilliant, but hey, you're as much to blame for this as the woke mind virus because you participated. You're an accomplice to it. We are all, by our acceptance of these things and our engagement, women who accept this are accomplices in their own demise and unhappiness. Okay, this is the reality of this is why it's such a. This is why using his idea of mind viruses misses the point. It is a. We look at this because we look at the goods it delivers us. And it does deliver us goods. And we don't pay attention to the costs. Because we don't often, we have lost consciousness or awareness of the costs of the choices of the modern world. We've lost our cognition of the costs. Because the ideology we are embedded with from education, our education system, has made us unable to perceive the costs or to ignore the costs. Well, I mean, most women, yes, most women. How about a Margaret Thatcher or Jean Kirkpatrick? Or Indira Gandhi, or hell, even Elizabeth, the first Elizabeth. There are women, or Catherine the Great. I can point to women who are politically. They're not the norm, but they're there. I'm not going to say that every woman is that, no, but nor is every man. Yet men are more likely to be serious than politically serious than women. Yes, that's true. Men are more political than women. Yes, that is a true statement. But all women cannot be capable. No, that's a. If one or two are, if I can give a handful of examples that are, then the statement all is not valid. Okay, you don't know personally. Well, then your experiences. Look at history. Look at the example of this. I know men. My personal example of men who are not serious is a lot. Also, I might, as a teacher, I've seen lots of unserious men. In my 30 years of teaching, I've seen also seen some young women who had the capacity to lead. Also, the problem is that it's not this. The cost. In other words, the question then becomes, what do they have to give up to do that? It's all a numbers game, yes, but have to ask a question. Well, I mean, the problem is you can't let all vote. I know a lot of men say, "Oh, we shouldn't allow women to vote." Sometimes I'm in that same mood, that the equal rights, the equal voting is not the best thing. Well, careful. Yes, human rights in the abstract are meaningless, but do you like your life? Do you like to have your goods protected? In other words, you wishing not to be murdered and not to have your stuff taken from you is a use. It is thus. It is something that maybe if you don't want it happening to you, maybe you should not. You should have want. In other words, you want others to share that view. Okay, so therefore, this is how human rights emerge. We have to understand that human rights is not. It's not a. It is something that we come to agree on, not that something that is simply there. It's an emergent belief structure that is important, like any belief structure. This is why all this stuff is belief. The realm of politics is the realm of belief in that sense. The realm of politics must be the realm of belief. Now we're at the hour mark. Well, yes, that's after World War II. Because why? Because during World War II, we saw the greatest violation of mass, the horrors of the Holocaust, the horrors of knowing what Stalin did, the horrors of the violations of people's rights and liberties, their lives, and the brutality. Yeah, there was civility prior. Yes, there was. I'm not going to deny that there was not civility prior, but the scope of the willingness to violate. We can point to the other Holocaust. We met this. We can point to the Armenian genocide. We can point to the way this over time. This has happened in human history more than we want to admit. This is maybe a reality that we want to. We choose ourselves over the other. That is a reality situation. The problem then becomes, when does that become destructive to us and our well-being? When do our engagement in something, our protectiveness, our interest, then ultimately then becomes destructive to our behavior? I mean, that's what in that sense. Well, we're going to stop here. I'm at my breaking point in that sense, my hour breaking point. I don't want to go further. My wife's been bothering me a lot, coming, poking her head in. I will hold live streams. I'll try to hold another live stream next week. Again, maybe I'll do something. I was focusing on Corlitz's point. I'm not going to disagree with him about this. I'm just not going to be a big fan of Morgoth. I gave my definition defending institutions and the way they work. I'm sorry, an ethnic group or community cannot survive without institutions. It's the same with elites. Elites, in other words, this is my point about elites, is elites are any kind of organization of a large structure. Division of labor is going to create a network of elites. The division of powers, division of structures, division of labor. In other words, in a small scale, intimate thing. In other words, hunter-gatherer societies are very small, and because they're so small, they're not going to be that complex. And because of the nature of being able to feed a group, and in other words, that they can't grow that big. You cannot grow it. If it grows too big, it won't be able to feed itself. And the gathering situation. So what ends up happening in hunter-gatherer situations, as the group of people, and there's not going to be families. There's going to be, you're going to have not polygamy, you have polygamy or different things. So you have male competition, male violence, maybe one male dominating and things like that. You have you have in hunter-gatherer society a very complex structure of this, but it's always going to be small. At a certain size, if it grows too large, the population group grows too big, it won't be able to survive and feed itself in the environment because of the way like this. So therefore, it needed to separate and to go in different areas. This is why all the talk about American Indians being so vast, the numbers of they were mostly hunter-gatherers, American Indians. In the southern part, as you went south more towards the Spanish influence, do they become hunter-gatherer? They move from hunter-gatherers to, you can say, you can even look at the buffalo. The buffalo is not, the Indians never developed pastoral structures. Where they do, now in South America, some do, and also some develop agricultural. Mexico, Central America, those, some of the Pueblo Indians and these guys in the Southwest, they went from hunter-gatherer, pure hunter-gatherer, but most of the plain Indians, American plain Indians, were hunter-gatherers, and the reason why they were hunter-gatherers is because the ecology permitted that to happen, perpetuate itself. As you went into more complex ecologies, they had to adapt, and they went to these structures. Um, so therefore, you have to understand the way institutions operate in this sense. This idea that institutions are not, we create this, we evolve, or we adapt to our situation, we create in situations. So therefore, the nature of hunter-gatherer lives, once you create pastoral structures, again, there's not going to be monogamy. Monogamy occurs really at agriculture, property ownership. This is where I bring myself to Collage's book on property, the origins of property capital. This property emerges. You see the importance of property once you have agricultural society. You see the importance of the household when you have agricultural society. You see the emergence of the polis in the agricultural society. So therefore, you really, and then only with agricultural society do you really get the development of the situation that makes the rise of commercial society possible. Now we can say, well, there commercial at every level there, trade is not tribal groups only don't trade. Hunter-gatherer tribes really don't trade, and there's not much interconnecting activity. There's often hostility towards them. They see themselves as competitors. There's not much cooperation. If there is cooperation, it's usually because they're forced to because of the environmental reasons. Pastoral people tend to only cooperate again because of the need to do this. But then once they start cooperating, they move towards. Pastoral peoples have to get sedimented to a certain area. This creates the conditions that they have to engage in agriculture to maintain their animals. So therefore, they immediately adapt to an agricultural environment. They start cultivating crops and things to feed their animals, and their herds no longer move about following food supply, because what happens is maybe there's too much. Maybe there's a limit to what can be done, the environmental limits, or the environmental or the conditional limit. So this is what I mean by that in this sense. This is why you can look at this from an evolutionary point of view and see the structure of how this operates and how each stage has a certain thing to it, a certain structure, certain opportunities. That's why I can't agree with Morgoth in that sense. You can't intermediate the institutions. And the institutions are things like maybe even elites, this division of labor, different power. That's my response. So I hope Corliss, James, likes my thought here. I don't know what to say about British institutions. I think the British elite collapsed because of basically guilt, white guilt, British guilt. Britain has been done before, so you never know. Okay, well, that's it. I'm going to stop here. I'm at my hour 20 almost. I don't want to go any further this. If you liked it, hit the like button. So far, 4 people liked it. If you've not been here, check it out. Hit the like button, please. It helps the algorithm. If you're if you're not here live, but here at the website, hit this. Hit the like strike. If you like it, didn't like it, you can say no, but say why in the content. You didn't like the content of it. You can follow me on social media. The social media links below. You can follow my academic social media links below that, and you want to help me contribute, you can do so through Patreon or Subscribe Star if you're rich enough. You want to spend like a couple bucks a month on that. Doesn't matter, doesn't hurt. Or buy one of my books through either your local bookstore, Amazon, or through online distributor like Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, or whatever, or through the publisher itself. It's been nice to see you. You can share it far and wide. Bring it. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I think most of you who are here coming here are subscribers. With little of my live stream, we had about 10 people here at one time or another, coming checking to see if there's something new or something what's up. Okay, take care and have a great weekend. See you next time, same bad hour at Fridays at 5 p.m. Central European Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care. Bye bye. Have a good day.